took it on themselves and they were running more than the required amount. And then some people were running less than the required amount. Like, you can only run, none of us are runners. You can only run what you.
Afternoon, Chris. I'm glad you managed to log on okay.
More experienced runners carried a bit of the lesser runners, but they kind of.
You'll need to unmute your microphone.
We thought long and hard about it, and a lot of people are currently raising money for the NHS, which is excellent. But we thought,
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
this would be my
today is the appointment of a chair. In normal circumstances, in terms of the terms of reference for the committee, the chair would now actually be taken up by a councillor from Derbyshire Dales District Council. So can I have any nominations? Councillor Hughes, do you wish to make a nomination? You'll need to.
I haven't. Yep. Well, I'd be very pleased to nominate Chris Furness, Councillor Furness, if he's willing to stand.
Okay, Councillor Furness. Do we have a seconder for that, members?
I'll second that too.
Okay, and Councillor Lilly. Can I have an indication of members comfortable with that? Yeah, all in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Furness, will you now assume the chair? Thank you. Councillor Furness, you'll need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. Can I just ask, Alan, are you keeping a list of people who are waiting to speak?
Yes, I'll actually sort of try and keep an indication of who's actually the green light, and then I'll sort of indicate to you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so item 2 is the appointment of vice chair, which I think this year is from North East Derbyshire, is that right?
That's right, Chair. The North East Derbyshire District Council would normally take the vice chair at this point.
So could I please have a nomination for vice chair from North East?
Councillor Tate, do you wish to make a nomination? Sorry, Councillor Tate, your microphone needs to be unmuted.
Is that better?
That's better, thanks.
Is it just me and you, Jeff, that are here today?
You would, however, be able to nominate Councillor Whitehead in his absence if members have come to that.
Yeah, I think I'll nominate Councillor Whitehead.
Can we have a seconder for that?
Second, please. Well, in that case, I'll second Councillor Whitehead, if that's all right, Alan.
Yes, Councillor Whitehead. Members comfortable with that?
What's that, Alan?
Sorry, I have no idea what that was, Chair. I'm afraid that might have been someone's phone.
Okie doke. So
Okay, do I get that then? That was by consensus. Members are comfortable with the vice chair as Councillor Whitehead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, apologies for absence, Alan.
Yes, I've received apologies for Councillor Fritchley, who may be a little bit late arriving at the meeting, but he does hope to be here in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item
And
4.
Sorry, Councillor Lillies wants to make a point.
Yeah, just to let you know beforehand, if the meeting is still in progress, I will have to leave at the time of around 3:20 because we're actually having a funeral today with my brother-in-law. Although under the circumstances we can't attend the funeral, it is going out on podcast, so I will be leaving at 3:20 at the latest to join that podcast.
Councillor Tate as well, Chair.
Nick Whitehead's apologies, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is any declarations of interest from councillors.
None received, Chair.
Good. So item 5 is the minutes of the last meeting. I assume everybody's read those. Is everybody got any points to raise on the meetings, or think there's anything being missed? Or I did point out one that the chairman hadn't actually been named at the last meeting, but I think that you're arranging to alter that, Alan, and amend.
Yeah, we'll actually record that in these minutes, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Matt Broughton wants to talk to.
Yeah, thank you.
There is reference on page 7 and page 8 and 9 of my post when it should be the joint ICT manager, Nick's previous post.
You got
Again,
that, Alan?
Chair, we'll actually make that amendment and we can read it into today's minutes.
Thank you very much. Any other points to raise from the minutes? No? Can somebody please propose that we accept the minutes?
I'll move that, Chair, with the amendments just mentioned.
Thank you. Can we have a second, please?
I'll second, Councillor Furness, I'll second that with the amendments.
Thanks, Councillor Hughes. Can I see hands, please, to approve that? That majority, Alan?
Yeah, that's it, Chair.
Thank you. Item 6 is the appointment of secretary of the committee.
Yes, Chair, that would normally be under the terms of reference, the joint head of governance for Bolsover and North East Derbyshire District Council. So the suggestion is that that officer be reappointed to the post.
Okay, do we need a proposer?
Well, I think it's a case really more of unless members have got any concerns about that by acclamation, that you're comfortable with that.
Okay, so unless anybody has objections to that, we will assume it's passed. Okay?
Okay.
No objections. So the item 7 is the appointment of treasurer.
And again, last year, Chair, the approach taken was that the Section 151 officers of Bolsover District Council and North East Derbyshire District Council should jointly carry out the role of treasurer. And again, it's suggested that the same process or the same position be adopted this year. And again, by acclamation, unless members have got any concerns about that the continuation should take place.
Anybody got any?
Move that course of action, Chair.
Sorry?
So I would like to move that course of action.
Okay. Do we need to vote on this one?
Now, again, if members are comfortable with that and no one's actually got any concerns about it, then
No.
it's by acclamation.
Okie doke. Thank you. Item 8, appointment of auditor. Is that the same situation?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. Again, in terms of the terms of reference, that role is taken by the Chief Internal Auditor of Derbyshire Dales District Council, and it's suggested, again by acclamation, that members support the continuation of that appointment.
Do we have any objections to that? No? Okay, so we'll assume that to have been approved.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Item 9 is the quarterly service report. Nikki, please.
Hello everybody. Yeah, hopefully you've all been able to read the joint ICT quarterly service report for the last quarter of the last financial year. I'm sure you're all familiar with the format already. So I'll just give you a brief overview and opportunity to ask questions. The report's covering the period of January to March 2020. Regarding the number of incidents and service requests we received during the quarter, they were particularly high, with January receiving the highest number of the 12-month period and March the second highest. The increase was partly due to the major upgrades to servers and virtual desktops during January and February, and additional requests due to the coronavirus lockdown and facilitation of remote working during March. Outstanding calls, the number of outstanding calls increased instead of the anticipated decrease. This was whilst focus was diverted to home working requests as a result of coronavirus business continuity. This may rise again over the next quarter due to the focus that's been on getting people out of the building, and also staff taking leave, which was postponed so that they could meet the January operating system deadlines. Regarding the service level agreements, despite these increases, there were no breaches in the service level agreements during this time. However, I think we will anticipate in future months that they will breach the SLAs due to the increased workloads and resources that we've had to divert to the coronavirus activities, and also because people are taking that leave that was postponed. Regarding outages, there was no priority 1 outages, and over the 3-month period, there was a total of 30 priority 2 outages. Nothing specific to comment on. Around project resource, the percentage time worked on projects did decrease after January as some of the major projects came to a close and resource was being diverted during March to corona-related activities. The average percentage project time over the 12-month period, though, was above the SLA at 38.4%. The report also goes through a summary of the major projects. Some project resource has been diverted to corona-related activities, or they've had to be put on hold as the changes are high risk or are difficult to continue during the lockdown period. For instance, getting consultants on site has been difficult. We move on to the budget. There was an overall underspend of 19,676 for the joint ICT budget. This underspend has taken into account the additional costs of the restructure, so they have been deducted as well. The underspends mainly from employee costs. There was underspend due to delays recruiting to vacant posts. Also, staff purchased additional annual leave, and we didn't need to use the training budget last year because we got a cybersecurity grant for training provided by the LGA, which covered it. There was an underspend on the services. That was mainly general expenses and computer equipment, so they're the variable aspects of the budget. There was also income. We didn't receive as much income, but that's again variable depending on what services want overtime to be recharged. I think there is a sort of question to the committee regarding the underspend, whether you want that to be deducted from the Q1 charges for this financial year, or whether you want it to be retained to be reinvested into the service. Details on any reinvestment opportunities would follow, and we would get agreement from yourself beforehand.
I would move that you retain and use in the fashion you just mentioned.
Pardon, sorry.
I would move the second option to retain it and reinvest in the way you've mentioned.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, the cost savings plan. Currently, we're investigating moving northeast telephony to SIP, internet telephony. This will provide some savings on the current ISDN costs. We've completed a tender for a new joint internet connection, which will deliver cost savings of £44,000 per year and improve the internet bandwidth. Although this will not come into effect until September 2021 next year, so it will result in some additional costs during the overlap. The new multifunctional device contract at North East and Bolsover will deliver £13,000 per year for Bolsover and approximately £9,600 for North East, whilst also providing increased coverage of devices. Security breaches, there's nothing significant to report. And service development, the new service structure was implemented as of the 1st of March. The senior technology post was recruited internally in February. We've secured £5,000 for each authority from the LGA for cybersecurity resilience. We've also secured 2 training courses to on approved CISSP, which is security training courses, for 2 members of the ICT staff. So that's a £6,000 grant for that. Has anyone else got any further questions or queries?
Any questions from anybody? I've got a couple, which I'll do first, and then somebody can come in later. First, it's for Karen. Karen, I'd just like your advice on this retaining and reinvesting the underspend. What's your view on that from the Derbyshire side?
It's not that significant, so I don't think it, in terms of value, it makes a lot of difference. I would recommend perhaps that if there are specific projects that it could be invested in, that might be a reason to set it aside for investment rather than to refund it. So I don't know if Nikki can come back on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, I haven't got specifics, but what I would propose is that we could, if we have got something specific for that money, extra money, we could come back to the Joint ICT Committee and propose, you know, is this what you want to spend it on?
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question really, and that is to do with the loading. You said that the loading on the on support was going to be higher in the current quarter than it was in the last quarter. Will this have an impact on costs, or is this, or will there be savings in other areas, in projects, for example, to accommodate the increase in support? And if it doesn't mean an increase in cost, is that something that the savings from last year could be used to support?
Potentially, it would mean, I think, by getting more staff, paying for more staff or overtime. I think at the moment we've perhaps pushed the resource towards the coronavirus activities, so less project work has been done, but there are projects that we haven't been able to continue because they've been high risk while everybody's out of the building. So I think it's something we could potentially look at, perhaps if it was put towards staffing costs.
Okay, is that okay with that, David?
Yes, thank you
Hello?
very much.
Any other questions? Councillor Broughton?
It's just a recommendation that perhaps ICT could go away and make recommendations around that £19,000. Given everybody's comments, I suppose it's really establishing a principle, whether it's something committee are accepting of, and if you are accepting of the principle, and then we can go and put some meat on the bones, so to speak, and make recommendations how best to use that. And obviously at that time, if you then choose not to spend that money, then we're only delaying decision rather than making an alternative one.
Apologies, you, Councillor Broughton, I'm sorry. Alan, yes.
Excuse me, Chair, just to remind you that I think actually it would be a case of the committee actually making a recommendation in terms of the 3 executive parts of the 3 authorities, in terms of how they felt that the money should be used, rather than something that you can actually definitively decide as a committee. Thank you.
Yeah, that is the case. It would be a decision to recommend rather than take action. I've got just a question about Nikki, if I could come back to you on the £90,000 redundancy charge that we had. Are we on track now to have that? I think the year set was 2025 when we should have covered it. Are we well on track for that?
I was led to believe that that had been taken. I may need to come back to you on that and check that is only that it is the full amount that's been taken, because I wasn't privy to what the actual amount was, so I would have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there something we need to vote on this, Alan?
I think actually the recommendation is to just note the report, but I'd suggest it was note the report, and in particular, that joint ICT service will now actually come forward with some specific ideas and possible recommendations for how any underspend might then be used.
Yes,
Is that
okay.
capture what you're actually wanting to say?
As far as I'm concerned, that's fine, because that can then go back to individual councils, can't it?
Yeah, I think that would be the idea, that sort of that there'd be proposals which you as a committee would consider or actually be comfortable with, which could then go back to the individual authorities.
That's good. Do we need to vote on the recommendation, or do we just pass it through as it's to note?
Again, are members feeling comfortable? And I think the issue about the vote is only really if actually members actually feel that there is actually a difference. But from what the discussion's gone so far, it would appear that everyone is comfortable with that. Could members just indicate if they are comfortable?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
members all are happy with that?
Yeah, good.
Right, in that case, Chair,
We'll
noted
move on.
subject to those comments.
Good, thank you, Alan. So we move on to item 10. Back again to you, Nikki. Video, audio conferencing tools.
Thank you. Yeah, this report was sent out just to sort of explain, really to update the councils on the background for issuing the members' protocol for the use of video and audio conferencing to join official council-related meetings. It was recently sent out to North Eastern Bolsover members and a few weeks ago to Derbyshire Dales members by the Head of Corporate Services. I haven't included copies as they are slightly different for each and it might lead to some confusion. Similar guidance has also been produced for staff at all authorities for the same reasons as highlighted in the report. This was agreed by CLT and SAMT. Basically, the reasons for it is since lockdown, ICT are receiving numerous requests to join video conferences organised by third parties, such as Chesterfield Borough Council, County, the Derbyshire Partnerships, parishes, etc. They're all using different video conferencing platforms such as Zoom, Skype, Teams, WebEx, GoToMeeting, and there is no standard tool. The different tools require different software, they have different security and data protection implications, they're all cloud-based, and it makes it very difficult for ICT to restrict how they're used or what they're used for or by who. A risk assessment in Appendix 5 highlights many of the risks. The practical ways we can mitigate the risks while enabling virtual conferencing to support these official council-related businesses and meetings is to either prohibit their use or ask councillors and staff to agree to a protocol of usage which determines what they should or should not be doing whilst using the different collaboration tools. Although it doesn't fully address all the risks, through the member and staff acceptance of the protocol, the authority can help to mitigate some of the risks associated with the use of the most commonly used video and audio tools where technical constraints are not available. Video and conferencing technology is improving and maturing at a fast pace, and the protocol will be reviewed regularly as it is subject to change, and it is envisaged that it will form part of the ICT security policies in the future. The report also highlights the difficulties with video conferencing, which is out of the control of ICT as it relies on everybody's data connection, whether it be 3G, 4G or home broadband. Regarding the council's ability to support the network, we have recently awarded tender for a new 200 megabit joint internet connection to assist with the council's connections out of the authority's network. However, we're waiting timescales from the supplier to install this. So that will go from a 40 meg connection to 200 meg connection. And we've also started a new project to review video conferencing tools for a mid-term solution. To conclude, we are requesting that based on the reasons identified in the report, that the Joint ICT Committee support the adoption and acceptance of the members' protocols for the use of video and audio conferencing tools to mitigate the risks with using those tools. And also that the Joint ICT Committee acknowledge details of the report, including the associated risks and mitigation. So any questions or queries?
Okay, open it to you, councillors, to any questions.
Can I jump in, Chair?
For you, yeah, fine, thank you.
This is a detailed question, so please say if it's too detailed for this committee. There have been a lot of press reports about security on Zoom. Do you have any comments that you can make to alleviate perhaps some concerns that there are over using Zoom on PCs, and particularly on the council officers' PCs, whereas the members have devices which are limited in scope. The council officers are potentially using PCs which may have a lot of confidential information on them, and I'm just a little concerned about the use of Zoom on devices with such a large amount of confidential information. Thank you.
We did do a report to CLT and SAMT about the use of Zoom, but on the early days, we decided not to use Zoom at North East and Bolsover or for corporate devices. We were going to use the GoToMeeting because of the security issues that it had at that time, because of data privacy issues, data protection issues, file sharing, etc. We suggested using the GoToMeeting platform for all corporate devices rather than Zoom. It was decided at Derbyshire Dales that they preferred to use Zoom for the council meetings, which requires that some of the staff also have it installed on their laptops. We got guidance probably about mid-April from the LGA, which was backed up by the National Cybersecurity Centre. They recommended that the use of Zoom for official, not official sensitive, official meetings was acceptable if purchase license, such as the pro or the business licenses, were purchased by the people who host meetings, and that they were set up with a specific set of guidelines. Now, we assisted Derbyshire Dales to set those guidelines up and to purchase their account so that they were in line with what the NCSE and the LGA guidance was at that time. Since then, things have moved on, obviously progressed a hell of a lot since, and Zoom's is doing its 90-day, sort of towards the end of its 90-day security improvements, and there has been a lot of improvements that we've seen. The paid-for accounts, you can restrict which data centres they go through, so providing the person hosting the meeting has a pro licence, they can set that it only goes through European data centres, which assists the data protection issues. And as of the 1st of June today, I believe they've stopped using the old apps on the version 4 apps, and the version 5 apps now have the end-to-end encryption, which was something that Zoom didn't have before. So hopefully that answers your question. By all means, I can continue if there's anything else you want to, or you want to ring me separately.
No, that's a fantastic answer. Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive and covered all the points that I was concerned about.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, that looks like it. So the recommendation is that this committee supports the adoption and acceptance of the members' protocol for the use of video and audio conferencing tools to mitigate the risks with using video and audio conferencing tools. Would somebody like to propose that?
Chair, I'll propose that.
Second.
Thank you. Do we need to vote on that, Alan?
Whilst there's been a mover and a seconder, I suggest yes, Chair.
Okay. Well, raise your hands if you're in favour, please. That unanimous, Alan?
Councillor Salt, are you voting on this occasion? It's certainly a majority anyway, Chair. The motion's passed. Yes, it is unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to item 11, coronavirus outbreak service response. I've got Nikki and Matt for this. Who's going first?
I could go first. Okay, I think most of it's probably coming from me. Yeah, sort of a recap. It seems like a long time ago now. I'm sure it does for everybody. But yeah, when the coronavirus outbreak, well, it was just before obviously the lockdown occurred. We were aware that there was potential that people wouldn't be able to work in the offices. So we focused resources on providing staff the ability where possible to work from home. Initially ensuring all key workers and those identified as vulnerable could, where possible, work from home, and extending this to many staff as possible to ensure essential services could continue and service disruption was kept to a minimum. Some could already connect to the virtual desktops when working remotely or from home. However, these were sized only to accommodate a percentage of remote workers. A lot of work was completed to install additional applications to the virtual desktops and to maximise the virtual desktops resources to ensure more people could successfully work from home during the lockdown. We also very quickly implemented 3 new virtual private network connections, or VPNs, utilising the fibre links at each of the 3 sites in order to allow more people to connect to the network from home, as they did not need a virtual desktop to complete many of their daily activities. We have to date configured and enabled over 165 users to connect over the virtual private network. We also deployed an additional 90 laptops, 60 working at home phones, redeployed 38 of the IGL terminals to home workers, updated 80 iPads with video conferencing and the modern.gov apps, purchased and configured over 150 new Swivel accounts to provide the 2-factor authentication for the virtual desktop users. During the outbreak, we completed a lot of additional work for the business centres at Coney Green and Tangent. This was to assist with their coronavirus activities, such as businesses wanting phone diverts, etc., putting on. We set up the technical and telephony equipment for 2 additional call centres for the community support contact centres at Bolsover and North East, and assisted with the creation of coronavirus-related forms. We assisted Ricknold Homes and Derbyshire Dales with their telephony and provided assistance to Chesterfield Borough Council to help them to get the Avato staff working on behalf of Derbyshire Dales to work from home. Just as lockdown was about to be enforced, focus was also very quickly put on providing methods for staff and members to collaborate in groups remotely. The main video and audio conferencing providers were quickly evaluated, such as Skype, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, and GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting was chosen as they provided local authorities with a 90-day free trial. Although Zoom also had free accounts, these accounts were limited to 40 minutes meetings. Zoom at the time also removed its phone-in option, as we knew that the iPads would have to come in to get the apps installed, and that a lot of the microphones had been disabled for security purposes on the laptops. The phone-in option was an essential requirement. There was also security and data protection issues that I spoke about before, so GoToMeeting was very quickly rolled out to staff, with managers and PAs being able to given instructions and accounts in order to organise meetings. It has been successfully used to allow remote collaboration between staff members and external third parties during the lockdown period. At North East, ICT set up the camera and streaming service in the council chamber, along with GoToMeeting, which has been successfully used for several cabinet meetings and a full council meeting. A similar setup is in progress at Bolsover. At Derbyshire Dales, ICT assisted Democratic Services to set up their Zoom accounts to enable them to do their council meetings. During lockdown, we have maintained 1 member of service desk at each of the 4 main sites to provide cover for those still on site. All other members of staff have been productively working from home, covering the service desk phone, remotely fixing incidents, service request changes, and continuing project work, and only coming to site when necessary. That's any questions? Or Matt, would you like to add anything?
Thank you. Nothing for me really. I'm a little confused as why I was on the agenda for this update. However, I will take the opportunity to say everything that Nikki has just said. It's easy for us to sit here and just expect these things to work, and that's certainly, I think, the challenge that staff have, and certainly ICT service have jumped up and met that challenge really, because the expectation is to be able to walk off site, go home, log on and work from home. And there is a lot more, as you've just heard, behind the scenes that make all that happen. And whilst it's been done, spending very little money and lots of effort from everybody to make it work, there is some consolidation to do. There is some things to perhaps make more permanent, as changes such as home working and virtual meetings are probably a permanent fixture in some form or another. So there is some work to do, but I think it's just credit to Nikki and Kristen and the whole of the ICT team really, who have really pushed on. I'm sure Karen has got similar stories from Derbyshire Dales as well.
Well, I'd just like to step in and say thank you to you, both of you, and all the team really, for all the huge effort you've put in. I mean, it's been a very difficult time for everybody, but the extra work you've had to do has really been obviously pretty tremendous. And thanks again for that. Are there any questions from anybody else or points to make?
I'd just like to make a comment here with regards to what's just been said, what Nick has just informed us of. I think one of the hardest parts of this, and besides what's going on in this monstrous world we've got at this moment, is getting to grips with this new technology. And I think the teaching part of it, and in particular from the North East Derbyshire point of view, the role of Matt in Derbyshire has been invaluable. And I would like, on behalf of this committee, to say thanks to them people. Keep up the good work, and I'm sure all of the members at North East Derbyshire will think the same thing. I know throughout our partners, both at Bolsover and at Derbyshire Dales, have had to go through the same process. So I think I could roll that out to all three organisations.
Yeah, thanks very much. Anybody else like to add anything or add any questions? Karen, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to what Matt said. The service that we got from ICT at Derbyshire Dales was invaluable. There was barely any disruption to a lot of services because they were able to get the extra functionality to allow a lot more people to work from home. And I would like to personally thank Nikki and Kristen, because I'm sure members will remember they hadn't long taken up their new positions when the outbreak struck. So it really was a baptism of fire, and I think they did a really good job to keep us all on track. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I think you've got the message, how appreciative we are of what you've done. Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to add anything before we finish this item off? Sounds like a train going past. So there's nothing to vote on there, Alan, is there? It's just the report that we've heard. So the next item is 12, urgent business. Alan, anything there?
Yes, Chair, just actually to say that Councillor Purdy's been in touch. She's having difficulties logging on. Resent him the access details. Unfortunately, it's not worked, so we'll just try and sort of do better next time. So I think if members are comfortable with this, I'll read his apologies into the minutes.
Yes, please do that. So the final item is the date of the next meeting, which I guess will be, what, September time, will it?
Yes, Chair. In terms of North East Derbyshire and Bolsover, there's been a timetable produced, which has identified 2 dates for possible joint ICT meetings. The first of these would actually be on Monday, the 5th of October at 2 p.m. and Monday, the 8th of February 2021 at 2 p.m. So the question is that if members are actually comfortable with that, we could then also press ahead with arranging one further meeting after that towards the end of the year, which actually then brings us to the 4 scheduled meetings that you'd indicated that you'd like to take place.
So can you do October date again, Alan?
Monday, 5th of October at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And Monday, 8th of February, again at 2 p.m. with one further meeting which would need to be arranged.
Well, that's say the second one again, please.
Yes, sorry. Monday, 8th of February 2021 at 2 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. Are those dates okay with everybody? Anybody got any problems with that? No. So I guess you'll be circulating these, Alan, at the appropriate time.
Will indeed, Chair.
So if there are any problems, you know, if Councillor Purdy or anybody else not here has got problems, we can perhaps rearrange. Okay, well, that closes the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.